For today's short meditation, let us turn our pages to 2 Corinthians chapter 8, verses 2. Here in this chapter, we see how Paul encourages the Corinthians about how the church of Macedonia had been helped in ministry and how they were in God's ministry, whether it was in giving or in teaching or in equipping themselves. He gives them as an example. Here in verse 2, we see it says, "Out of the most severe trial, their overflowing joy and their extreme poverty welled up in rich generosity." When we take this verse, it's kind of contradicting within the poverty and generosity. When we see poor, there's nothing much to give. So how can that be very generous? Here we see how Paul says that how the Macedonian church, even in their extreme poverty, they welled up. They gave much in generosity. This verse reminded me of a certain province in Mizoram in India, where in each household, as the woman prepares the meals, usually the main course there is rice, and usually each time she prepares meals for a day, she takes one part of that and puts in separate box. Each time, every household we see, in most of the Christian household, we see these women who prepare their meals, they take one part, they keep it separately as they prepare every time. On Sunday, they mix all the rice from different, not just one woman who have saved everything for that week, but all the women who have saved that just one part, they gather and they cook and they sell it. And with that money, they proceed to pay those money for missionary needs. One of the items they purchased was a computer. During those times, they bought a computer, and the first thing they did was to complete the Bible in their own translation. From this example, we see that even though they didn't have much, with what they had, they were very grateful. Whatever they saved it was used for the glory of God. Many people, even though they had more, even though they are very rich, we don't see this kind of sharing. Even though we see some people who don't have anything to give, they might think that it is not worth. They may not have much to give for the Lord. Even though they may be very poor, they may feel very bad, or they may feel very inadequate in giving because it may not be in much in quantity or much in amount. But in Luke 21, we see how the widow felt very inadequate in just putting those 2 coins, seeing the other people putting in huge amounts for the Lord. But yet, she decided to put what she had. She was able to sacrifice what she had. With among all those, just the 2 coins, she was able to sacrifice and give it for the Lord, even though there were many people who gave more. That's why we see Jesus said that the widow put more than all the others. When we see these examples, can we really honestly say that are we giving our sacrifice? Or are we giving to the Lord at least what we had? Even though we may have nothing, could we even sacrifice that something that we have to give Him? Even though there is poor, there is something called in generously giving. Everybody who wants to give may not be having anything in their hand. Maybe somebody who don't want to give anything, they may be having more. I would like to encourage, let us not be disappointed. Let us not feel inadequate in what we are giving to the Lord. Let us give our fullest. What we are giving, is it sacrificial? Or we are just giving to the Lord partially? Or just for the name's sake? Or just for the glory of ourselves? Is it our sacrificial? Just the widow who gave, it was a sacrificial for her. It was a sacrificial giving. And when we see this woman who collected the rice and cooked and sell, and they used that for the glory of God. You see, it's just not the money. The money is not the only base here. But whatever it is, we should be sacrificial in giving to the Lord and glorifying His name. Sacrifice is the true measure of our giving. When we give, let us realize, is it for the name's sake, or is it for our glory, or is it for our satisfaction, or is it sacrificial? Let us remember that our giving should be sacrificial, not our self-satisfying or to satisfy others. Rather, what we give, our sacrificial giving, should glorify God. Amen.